The candle that screams when lit. The old shop at the edge of town had always been there, tucked between a boarded-up bookstore and an abandoned tailor's shop. No one remembered when it first appeared, but its dusty windows and hand-painted sign, Elara's curiosities, suggested it had been there for decades, if not longer. Most people passed by without a second glance, but for those who dared enter, they found things no ordinary store should possess. Michael had never believed in the supernatural, but he had a fascination for the unusual. When his best friend Danny dared him to buy something from Elara's, he didn't hesitate. The bell above the door jingled as he stepped inside, and the scent of old wood and something faintly metallic filled his nostrils. The dim lighting cast strange shadows on the floor, stretching across shelves crammed with odd trinkets, antique dolls with hollow eyes, books with titles in languages he couldn't read, and strange jars containing things better left unidentified. Behind the counter, a woman stood watching him. Her silver hair was braided over one shoulder, and her sharp green eyes seemed to pierce through him. "Looking for something in particular?" she asked, her voice smooth but unsettling. Michael smirked, glancing at Danny, who stood hesitantly at the entrance. "Just browsing." "Got anything creepy?" Elara tilted her head. "Creepy?" "Yeah, something with a story, haunted dolls or cursed jewelry." A slow smile spread across her lips. Without a word, she reached beneath the counter and pulled out a small wooden box. The grain was dark and weathered, etched with symbols Michael didn't recognize. She slid it toward him. "This," she said, "is exactly what you're looking for." Michael lifted the lid. Inside was a candle, about 6 inches tall, made of wax so dark it was almost black. The wick, unusually thick, was a deep crimson color, like dry blood. "A candle?" He raised an eyebrow. Elora nodded. "Not just any candle. This one. Screams when lit." Danny scoffed. "That's ridiculous." Michael smirked, intrigued. "What's the catch?" Elora's expression darkened. "The candle doesn't just scream. It remembers. Every time it burns, it absorbs pain, suffering, and fear. And when it's lit, it releases what it has taken." Michael chuckled. "You make it sound like it's alive." She leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe it is." Danny shifted uncomfortably. "All right, joke's over. Let's go." Michael ignored him. "How much?" Elara's eyes gleamed. "It's not for sale." "Then why show it to me?" "Because," she said, "some things find their owners, whether we want them to or not." A chill ran down Michael's spine. He glanced at Danny, who shook his head vigorously. But something about the candle called to him. He had to have it. "Name your price." Elara studied him for a long moment before sighing. $10. Michael expected her to name some outrageous price, but without questioning it, he pulled a crumpled bill from his pocket. Elara slid the box across the counter and placed a hand on his. Her grip was icy. "Never burn it alone," she said. "And if it screams, do not blow it out." Michael nodded, tucking the box into his jacket. As he turned to leave, he could have sworn he saw a flicker of something in Elara's eyes, pity, perhaps. That night, Michael and Danny sat in Michael's dimly lit living room. The candle sat on the coffee table, its waxy surface gleaming under the light. "This is stupid," Danny muttered. "It's just a candle." Michael grinned. "Then let's prove it." He struck a match and held it to the wick. The flame caught instantly, a strangely deep red glow flickering against the wolf. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a scream tore through the room. It wasn't a human scream. It was something deeper, layered, filled with anguish and torment. It echoed off the walls, vibrating through their bones. Danny clapped his hands over his ears. "Jesus Christ, put it out." Michael hesitated. He remembered Elara's warning, but the sound was unbearable. Without thinking, he blew sharply, extinguishing the flame. Silence. For a brief second, nothing moved. Then the room grew colder. The shadows stretched unnaturally, and the air grew heavy, thick with something unseen. The candle remained, but the darkness around them deepened, something stirring just beyond their vision. Danny's breath came in ragged gasps. "Michael, I think we made a mistake." A whisper slithered through the room, something neither of them could understand. The shadows twisted, forming shapes, faces contorted in agony, mouths open in silent screams. Then, a voice, distorted and inhuman. "You freed us." The room erupted in chaos. The walls trembled, the furniture shook, and the candle lit itself. The scream returned, louder this time, a chorus of voices wailing in torment. The flame flickered wildly, growing taller, taking form, twisted limbs, hollow eyes, reaching toward them. Michael grabbed Danny's arm. "Run!" They bolted for the door, but the air thickened, pushing them back. The figures grew clearer, clawing toward them, their translucent forms shifting between flesh and shadow. Danny sobbed. "We have to put it out." Michael thought fast. If blowing it out released them, maybe relighting it would trap them again. With trembling hands, he grabbed the matchbox, striking another match. The flame wavered in the cold air, and he pressed it to the candle's wick. The moment it caught, the figures shrieked, their forms twisting in agony. The shadows retreated, sucked back into the wax. The room returned to stillness. Michael and Danny collapsed onto the floor, panting. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The candle sat between them, its flame calm once more. Then, slowly, it began to melt. But instead of wax, thick, dark red liquid cooled around its base. "Look!" Michael met Danny's wide-eyed stare. They both understood. The candle hadn't just trapped souls. It had been feeding, and now it was waiting for more. From the corner of the room, just beyond the candlelight, something chuckled, and the flame flickered. As if breathing,